a local hero. Still ahead, how one man moved in to save two victims of a crash.
And an explosive scare at a Michigan IRS building. The full
Evacuation of all.
It was more than 30 years ago when millions of Americans first laid eyes on Dan Rather. A powerful storm was battering the southern U.S., giving a rookie reporter his first big break.
Evacuation should be hastened before it is too late.
Then came Dallas, 1963, when, ironically, one of America's darkest days helped make Dan Rather a star.
We are told that the gunshot wound, the fatal wound inflicted on the President of the United States, entered at the base of the throat and came out at the base of the neck.
From there, it was a steady climb up the CBS ladder. And when Walter Cronkite retired in 1981, Dan Rather had reached the top.
Good evening.
And more than 13 years later, he is still there, the anchor and managing editor of the CBS Evening News. Last week, he sat down with us to talk about his career and his newscast, which comes to TV5 tonight.
I'd like you to begin by telling those viewers, people who maybe don't know what CBS is about, maybe aren't that familiar with your work, what they can expect.
First of all, CBS News is a hard news outfit. It was yesterday, it is today, it will be tomorrow. I think our history demonstrates two things. One, that we at CBS News help set many of the standards that are the world standards in electronic journalism today. But I can only ask those who may be a little uncomfortable saying, well, I'm used to seeing somebody else, to give us a try, because I think they'll be very pleased with the news product. I can't emphasize too strongly that we are, and I am, all news, all the time, all the way through.
On a much smaller scale, I guess, it's a lot like your situation in 1981 when people had to get used to Dan Rather after all those years of Walter Cronkite. That had to have been an enormous burden.
Well, that's a good point. I never considered it a burden. I always considered it a tremendous honor and a great challenge. But here's the point, that I'm more a reporter anchor than I am an anchor reporter. But I understand that sometimes it takes people a while to get used to that. That I have always seen myself first and foremost as a reporter, and I still do. That's not everybody's way of anchoring the news. It's my way, and naturally I think it's a better way.
It's the job that Dan Rather never dreamed he'd ever have, and at times wasn't sure he ever wanted. But for the past 13 years, he has been the main man at CBS, the anchor and now co-anchor of the CBS Evening News. The newscast has changed, and the business has changed. And according to Rather, not always for the better.
I believe in excellence. I believe in quality. I believe in journalism of integrity. Now, in the 1990s, the competitive pressures, primarily the ratings pressure, puts us in danger of being overwhelmed by entertainment values. It's what I call the Hollywoodization of the news. And I care about it. I care about it because I care about our credibility, and I want to do excellent work.
But you know, I don't mean to interrupt you, but what can be done about that? Because it seems to, every night there's O.J. Simpson, and before that it was the Menendez brothers and Lorena Bobbitt and Tanya Harding.
So true. And
CBS and NBC and ABC and CNN, all these hard news organizations, were all over those stories.
We can do a better job of saying to ourselves, do I really believe in what I'm doing? See, I think a lot of times we put on the Bobbitt stories, the Menendez brothers, you name it, O.J. Simpson overcovered, that we know we're not doing the right thing. No, I'm not a preacher, I'm not accepting myself from this. But what can we do? We can make a little noise. We can speak up when we don't think it's right. This is true with much in life, and it's true in journalism.
You have had one of the great careers in the history of broadcasting. If there was a Mount Rushmore of broadcasting, a good argument could be made for Dan Rather being up there. You've been everywhere. You've seen everything. What keeps you coming in here every day? When you really, it seems like a lot of people would maybe want to relax and take it easy and enjoy the fruits of their labors, but you're here every day. I wonder why.
I love the news. I've always loved the news. This is my passion. I appreciate what you say. I don't deserve that, but I'd love to deserve it. I want to be a great world-class journalist.
In New York, this is Sam Merrill, News 5 Night Beat.
So we're about 3.5, I guess. It's cold!
Standing in front of Flint's UAW Local 659 on a chilly Thursday morning, NBC's Ann Curry prepares to tell the nation about the city's struggling economy.
Good morning, Joe. I'm in Flint, Michigan, a town teetering on the brink of this recession.
In a 2-hour broadcast devoted to how America is dealing with the recession, Today went to towns in Massachusetts and Washington in addition to Flint. Locally, they spent a lot of time talking about GM. Still the major Flint employer, but a company whose workforce has shrunk.
What I've learned about Flint is that this is a town of survivors. There are a lot of people here who have gone through a very tough time. The 30,000 people, I understand, were laid off in the last decade. The people who are here have been through it. People have expressed a lot of fear about their future. And these are people with 18 years seniority, 20 years seniority.
The Today Show segment also marked the network TV debut for a few local folks, including Don Spillman, who helps laid-off workers adjust and hopefully find new jobs. His coast-to-coast message was a succinct one.
My message would be to all the folks watching this program today, help support a content law for America. Jobs in Mexico, Japan, Korea, that's not helping us here at home.
You say that you think most people might not agree, but they listen anyway. I think it's the opposite.
Limbaugh's in Michigan on what he's calling his Rush to Excellence 91 tour. And appearing on News 5's Live at 5 today, he said his show is a big hit because it's so unique.
It is a spontaneous, unpredictable, controversial, substantively so, other than it's not controversial because of the way I treat people, program that is unlike any other radio talk show that you can find anywhere.
And if you call and complain after having heard this, your complaint will not be listened to by anybody because you will have been warned that it is possibly offensive to you.
In 2 years, Limbaugh's possibly offensive 3-hour daily program has spread to more than 300 American radio stations. The show goes out on what Limbaugh calls the Excellence in Broadcasting Network. One local affiliate says at first Rush was a little hard for folks to get used to.
It's interesting that as time has gone on, we have found that those people who have been negative about Rush have turned around on them and found them quite interesting and entertaining.
I would imagine a lot of listeners don't always agree with it because you are awfully conservative.
There are a lot of...
He opens each show by announcing that he's performing with one half his brain tied behind his back and with talent on loan from God. And today on his show, Rush predicted that if the Allies launch a ground war, it'll be over in 10 days. A brash boast for a guy who claims to be right 97% of the time. Sam Merrill, News 5. At about 1:30 this afternoon, Chris Bird stepped off a plane and into the arms of a community glad to have him back.
Chris, what do you think of this welcome? It's great. It made me feel real good now. I was a little down after the bout, but coming home in this is wonderful.
It was a big, loud, warm welcome home, bringing together all parts of the community, family, close friends, even total strangers who all just wanted to say thanks. And there were those who still think that Chris Bird got robbed by the judges in his gold medal bout Saturday in Barcelona.
Big George Foreman, he was there. I sat with him ringside, and he just said, hey, your brother don't have nothing to be ashamed of. I thought he won.
In all the excitement and the big crowds pushing toward Chris, his father and coach Joe almost got overlooked. But we caught up with Joe Bird, who admitted being a bit down on the long flight home.
Well, ain't nothing like being home. You know, home is where that. It was all right, but it was so much politics. Oh, my God. The people, I couldn't believe they shocked me out here. I was down, but this thing kind of uplifted me. Yeah, it was really nice.
How's he look to you, Mrs. Bird?
He looks fine to me.
How's your son look? How'd your boy look?
He looked fine, just fine. Yeah, like he's happy to be home.
Later, at an impromptu news conference, Chris said the big welcome had taken some of the sting out of finishing second.
Well, I was real hurt because I had my mind set on the gold medal. But all these people here now, maybe I won the gold medal. I might have the silver. I might have the silver on my neck, but it feels like a gold now.